it was distracting. I have to be honest. But it was distracting, but yeah, even with Finasteride, I was in a long-term relationship and I had a high, very, very high libido. So I think that people need to realize that. Like when you use these things, you don't know if your libido is gonna get higher or lower. It's not just that it can get lower. People should know that. I like how Kyle said that things that would have been differently even on the web, online, about those drugs, because a lot of fear mongering would be gone, wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. Like, it's like mind over the matter kind of like context here.
Oh yeah.
Because I had a similar experience kind of like with gynecomastia. Like I had it induced through puberty. And when I started finasteride, I was just a ton of fear monger was in me that it's gonna give you worse gyno. And for the longest time, I thought my gyno was getting worse and worse and very, psychologically, harming to me. But then
Bro,
to a certain point, I learned about it, and bam, it just went away. Like it, I think it could obviously be a psychological standpoint here, where it's just like it's just messing with my head, but that's how much fear
mhm.
monger does damage to people. So.
I swear I had the same thing. Like a lot of the things you say are very similar to my experience, almost the same. I went crazy with gyno concerns on dutasteride, but
Mhm.
bro, it didn't get worse. It was all in my head. I developed crazy BDD, which is body dysmorphic disorder, and I
Oh,
just started seeing things. Yeah,
mhm.
that's great.
Yeah, very similar boat here. Like body dysmorphia, especially with like your hair, where you're like, oh, you're like almost counting like hairs, like, or to the point where it's like this is diffusely thinning, like to the extreme. It's just so
Mhm.
unhealthy, and yeah, it's very
Oh
mentally
yeah.
taxing, that's for sure. So I
Yeah,
understand where you're
yeah.
coming from.
I
So,
read a psychology study on body dysmorphia, body
hmm,
dysmorphic disorder, and hair loss, and it turns out, sorry, that when you have hair loss problems, the probability of having BDD is 10 times higher than the control group. And keep in mind, the control group was not normal people; they were dermatology patients, so they had
Yeah.
other cosmetic issues probably. So that would be even crazier, I think.
yeah, interesting. Huh. I mean, it does make sense. Because like a lot of people I know too, who either struggle from hair loss or have reached out to me, it's hard for them to like open up, and it's they
Mhm.
just get super almost insecure, and it's kind of saddening to see a lot of these people and go through it because taking action could be seen as like not or like unmanly,
Oh
in
yeah.
this aspect too. So it's saddening. So,
Yeah, I hate those narratives. You have people who are like, well, DHT is manly hormone. So you getting rid of that makes you a girl. It's like,
yeah,
okay, man. Paracrine hormone that we don't really need after puberty is crazy. Like, come on.
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, like, really, do you really need the quicker beard growth or whatever? I like, there's plenty of women who grow beards just fine. So, I don't think
Yeah.
we need DHT for the beard growth.
I think honestly, even with that, I'm pretty sure you can still grow a beard with just
Oh yeah.
testosterone. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh guys, when I was on Finasteride, I made 80% of my beard gains. This is undeniable. Yes, I used to have almost zero facial hair.
Hmm.
Now it's kind of patchy, but there's a lot now, a lot more. So yeah.
Interesting. I personally, genetically, I had really much facial hair growth. I heard from like just from the grapevine where it's like dihydrotestosterone is better for quicker beard growth comparatively to like how dense it is compared to like testosterone, where testosterone helps
Mhm.
better grow the beard while DHT makes it grow quicker. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've like kind of like thought, but in general. So, but I may be wrong on that. So. But also, kind of like bring it back to your guys' experiences. Have you guys ever had experience with like the DHT itch, or like kind of that like feeling you've had on your scalp and or face?
Yeah, I mean, it's I think everyone has had some sort of itchy scalp before, and to my knowledge, seborrheic dermatitis is correlated with AGA. Like, there's a high correlation there because seborrheic dermatitis has a basis in androgens, specifically DHT, inflaming the sebaceous glands and causing sebaceous glands to produce sebum that's poor in certain nutrients, right?
Mm.
But I've never had like seborrheic dermatitis to my knowledge. But I do believe that there is that sort of DHT itch being some sort of onset of sebderm or some sort of inflammation of the sebaceous glands. It's very conceivable. So I think DHT itch is a thing. It's just not something that I really think that I had to deal with, at least from how people describe it.
Okay. Because similar to me, like I'd have this really weird, I didn't know what it was for the longest time, but every time I'd get done with a workout, the sides of my jaw and like the Norwood pattern kind of areas on my head would get really itchy. Just those areas, I would only get itchy kind of on the sides of my jaw and like the top of like my head areas, never anywhere else. Always thought was so weird for me. And this is even when I was on Finasteride, and even it does occur sometimes to this day, but I never knew what it was until like I came across like this DHT itch, and I was like wondering, maybe if this has some correlation to this really oddly particular itch pattern I have. So
In
yeah,
my
I'd like to share.
experience, sorry for cutting you out.
No worries.
In my experience, I never had any itch in my scalp, luckily. So yeah, that's my personal experience, but that doesn't deny the fact that a lot of people report having it. So yeah, that was just my anecdote.
See, interesting.